What's this? Tabletop Island, huh? Let's see what this is all about.
Welcome to Tabletop Island. I'm Bernardo, your host, and today we're diving into our top 20 out of our top 50 regular board games of all time. And again, if you haven't taken a look at our vintage top 50 board games of all time, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check that out also. But man, oh man, am I excited. But without further ado, let's first start with number 20, The Haunted School Escape. This is a Japanese board game that I actually translated. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check out my review, because I've also created a template that you can print out and add stickers over your existing board if this is a game you're interested in. That way it translates it so you can play it as normal. And oh man, this is an awesome game. I love horror board games, and this one sits really high for me. In fact, I cannot wait to get this to the table again in October for Halloween month. But essentially, you are moving through to collect items to bring back to the starting location. Sounds easier said than done. However, you are trying to get the items in your color. So while you're moving around the board, there is this awesome tower that would have shot all of the tokens across the board. That ends up being where they land permanently while you move around to try to get them. While you're doing so, you can land on spots that can move the Jinmenken. What is that? That is an urban legend from Japan where it is a dog with a human face, and it is creepy. But it's such an awesome game. It captures that essence of that horror theme so perfectly well. It has electronic components. It has some 3D components with unique mechanisms, such as the tower popping those tokens out so it's different every time. The replayability is insane, and I've actually created a few game modes since then. Oh man, I love this game. But Haunted School Escape. Number 19, Celestia. This is an awesome social game. As you know, I love social games, but this one is no exception. The components look gorgeous. You have this kind of cardboard 3D boat ship air majiggy that you fly through to different lands to collect points. However, you need to have the cards in order to successfully complete the mission or the flight as the pilot. The pilot constantly changes as you progress through each round. Oh man, it's ridiculous, because right when you think you can trust someone, because hey, they have 5 cards, what are the odds they don't have what it takes to pass this? But they don't. And the plane crashes and you go back to start and no one gets points. However, if you think you can't trust them and you decide to get off before they just let you know whether or not you passed it, then you get to pull off to that island and get the points on the island you end up stopping at. The farther you get along the path, the more points you get. So you want to stay for as long as you think you can. And keeping in mind as well, that turn will eventually come back to you. Do you think you can make it through? There's so many different decision makings in this game. It is luck based as well with the dice, but it's such a fun game. I highly recommend it if you love social games and you have young adults, because this is a fantastic family game. But Celestia, number 19. And I'll have a link in the description too, where you can check out my review. Number 18, Las Vegas Royale. There is an original that I believe is just called regular Las Vegas. Same game, still amazing. This one just has upgraded components. It's the one you can still buy now, and it does have a few alternative game modes added to it as well, because I believe there was a separate expansion that came with the original. I'm rambling. This is an awesome gambling game that uses dice. Yes, it's luck based, but there's still some thinking and strategy you have to consider. Each turn you're rolling your die and determining which die you want to place on certain spots on the board. At the end of each round, the player who has the most die in that area gets the money for that spot. Now you want to make sure that you put the most dice you can on spots that will get you a lot of money, because at the end of the game, the player with the most money wins. There's so much thinking, so much hilarious screwing over your opponents, that way they get nothing. Yeah, we that evil. But Las Vegas Royale, I highly recommend it if you like kind of lightweight semi-strategy with some luck of the die. I adore this game, and I'll leave a link in the description too so you can check out my review. Number 17, Dixit. This is a social lightweight game that is amazing for the whole family. It has phenomenal artwork and so many expansions you can add that add different themes and elements to the game. you essentially on your turn create a word, a phrase, a catchphrase, whatever you want, and you place a kind of card in your hand that has an amazing painting that can kind of guide people towards that painting. Now, let's say you have some specific item you want to call out, such as a rabbit. Well, guess what? When you have that card face down, your opponents are now putting out cards that correlate with what you just said. You're mixing them up, laying them out, and everyone else is trying to guess which one they think you put down as the starting player. It is so smart because so many people will have cards that add that like little nuance that can just throw everyone off. And the player who has the best one that can look past some of the ones that aren't good will be able to find it. So you want to try to get it as best as you can to throw the other players off. Because if everyone guesses it, the player who places the card down doesn't get any points. So they don't want everyone to guess, but they want some of the people to guess. This game is awesome, and I'll have a link in the description too, so you can check out my review. Number 16, Dragoon. This is actually the second regular board game review I've ever done, and this game still sits pretty high on the list for that reason. I've liked it since I've gotten it. It is a lightweight strategy game, and man, do I love the theme. You are these dragons who are trying to steal gold to claim back different pieces of territory. Now, while you're doing so, your opponent can also steal territory from you and fight you, sending you back to your cave, which sucks. This game has so much going for it. The card system's really smart because you can add so much strategy to it. While the tiles do pop up due to dice, and it can seem like luck and kind of favor towards certain players on the map, I do assure you that that isn't a hindrance in the enjoyment, because I've seen players get lucky with tiles and still lose heavily. So I'll leave a link in the description as well so you can check out my review, but Dragoon sits on this list for that very reason. Number 15, Katan. Yes, base Katan. I've actually not played any of the expansions. It's something I do plan on doing rather soon, but I love the base game. I know a lot of individuals who have been gamers for a long time probably find it to be stale or too much luck, but honestly, that doesn't bother me at all. This game is just fantastic, well structured, and I am so sad that I looked at this box so many times and saw how ugly the components were and said, nope, I'm gonna pass, because the experiences you get in this game are unmatchable. This is considered a Euro game, but it does kind of favor heavily with luck since you're rolling dice constantly. The best part about this game is there's no downtime for an opponent, because every player that rolls a die, you can gain something from it. Resources depending on what you have on the board. I'm actually working to create a 3D version of this game, and honestly, I ended up playing this game for 48 hours straight. I know I'm crazy, but there's a sad story to it. I'll tell that one day soon, along with the Tornado Rex story, but I'm rambling. Katan, highly recommend it if you aren't familiar with it. If you are and you love the expansions or different variants of this, let me know. I've even played the Game of Thrones one. It adds a little bit, but it's not anything too crazy, but I'd love to hear what you guys like, because Starfarers is really on my radar. Number 14, King Domino. And yes, so with the expansion as well. That's not cheating, I promise. But I am so thankful. I heard about this game thanks to Matt Wilkins and Luke from Down from the Attic. Matt actually heard of this game from Luke, and I am so glad I took the plunge to try this out, because it's an awesome, elegant, lightweight, relaxing game with surprisingly a lot of strategy. And with the expansion, it gets real vindictive, which I thought I wouldn't like so much, but man, do I ever. But this is a tile placement game. You are shuffling up all the tiles and laying them out in order dependent on number that's on the back of them. As you start to reveal them on your turn, depending on who is going to be the first player, places their meeple on top of that token that they want. A lot of the ones with higher numbers that are on the bottom of the track seem to be the more favorable tokens. However, if you end up picking the last token on the lineup, that also means that you get to be the last to pick the next time. So you really have to plan strategically as to, is that bottom tile worth you not getting the next tile? Especially when you add the kind of expansion here with the giants, because if you end up being the last player to select a tile and the next opponent selects one with a giant that puts a giant to cover up one of your resources, that really makes things hard for you. The point system's smart, it's really lightweight, and it's an amazing family game. If you've never checked this out, I promise you it will surprise you if you're into lighter side games. But I'll leave a link in the description if you want more details so you can check out my review. Number 13, Tear Below. This is awesome, and if you're familiar with the Tremors franchise, that really grasps that theme in this board game. It just doesn't have the theme. They probably won't admit it, but I think everyone's kind of figured it out. So if you're a fan of that IP, you should probably check out this game. It is a unique strategy game where you are trying to collect points and cash in certain eggs that appear throughout the map and bring them into certain locations dependent on what the card is requiring you to do, so you can get the most victory points. When you meet a certain condition with victory points, the game ends and you win. But there is a lot more added elements to it with the worms. Yes, there are sandworms that can pop out and affect you. And depending on the movement cards that you end up playing under specific worms, once it meets the maximum card limit for that worm, it pops up on the location that it shows on the card. And man, does it get ridiculous. I absolutely adore this game and I love the theme. It's super unique and there's surprisingly a lot of strategy to it. You'd be surprised how often you can put a worm in your opponent's area and try to screw them over, and they have weapons to defeat it and get points for doing that. So there's also some risk in trying to affect your opponent because they can end up on top getting more points than you. There's so many different things you got to consider, so many different paths you have to go because there's gravel in your way. There's just so much going for it, but I'll have a link in the description so you can check out my review. Number 12, Escape Curse of the Temple. I know that twinkle in Matt Wilkins' eyes just showed up again. This is a Queen game, and this game is awesome. It is a fast-paced, real-time game with a theme that I love. If you know me, you know I love the adventure theme. You are essentially Indiana Jones moving through a temple to release jewels throughout the temple to try to find the exit and escape. Now, depending on the number of jewels you have left in kind of the pool, depends on the number of keys you have to roll when you get to the exit. There is a 10-minute track that is constantly going through, which is speeding up and adding different elements that just make you more antsy the entire time because you're consistently rolling die to reveal the next tile, which could have a trap and screw you over depending on the expansions you have. I have the big box. Highly recommend it because there's so much replayability here, but again, you don't really need all of it because while I do think the base game is great, I do think if you only have the base game, it will get stale. So having access to a lot of these expansions makes this game well worth your time, an amazing addition to your collection if you can handle real-time games. I know a lot of individuals who don't like that fast, energetic, I'm out of breath as I'm rolling dice because I'm panicking kind of board game, but if your friends do and they love kind of that social fast game that you can kind of get to the table quickly while you wait for some of your other friends to show up, this is a good game to pull out. Escape Curse of the Temple, and I'll have a link in the description too so you can check out my review. And finally, number 11, Cyril of the Seas. I actually just utilized the Cyril part of this game. I was told to buy this version because if I ever wanted more dynamic, I could play with the dragons, but without using them, it's just regular Cyril. I personally prefer regular Cyril. I've heard about the new Phoenix version. I'm interested in looking a little bit more into that, but as of right now, I'm pretty happy with this one. The simplicity of Cyril is fantastic. I do love the boats more with Cyril of the Seas because it kind of fits it a little bit more as opposed to those little stone pieces, but this game is a whole lot of fun. You have 3 tiles each, and you are constantly drawing tiles and placing them onto the board and following the path. In my case with the boat, to eventually knock off other players. Now, how you do that, you are constantly getting close to kind of set your opponent up to where their path leads them off the board. That's how you eliminate them. I'm not a big fan of player elimination games, but this one is an exception because it's a whole lot of fun. It's quick, fast-paced, easy to teach, fun for the whole family, and there's a lot of strategy in this game, surprisingly. But again, if you're a big, heavy Euro gamer, this might not be the game for you. But this one sits at number 11 for that very reason, and I'll have a link in the description where you can check out my review. That's all I have for you guys here today with our top 20. Get ready to dive into our top 10 because as I keep telling you, it only gets better from here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Me and Volcar really appreciate Volcar and I greatly appreciate it. And it would really help us out if you like, comment, subscribe on this video. And if you're interested, hit that bell icon because that'll let you know when we release our newest video. Monday is going to be our regular board game reviews. Wednesday, our weekly update / talks. And then on Friday is my vintage board game reviews. That is all I have for you guys today. I will see you guys next time. Well, apparently the video doesn't end until Volcar says it ends, so I guess we wait.